struggle, and we don't look for trouble, just ask around. But when outside faces from foreign places talk about taking over, we ain't backing down. We ain't giving up no mountains, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one caress, not a blade of grass. This land is all I know. We gonna make it somehow. We will bend like a bow and never break. Our fathers came here and they lived and died here, and we ain't moving nowhere. Make no mistake, 'cause we ain't giving up no mountain, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one caress, not a blade of grass. We love the open country of the Rupununi and the Essequibo, daytime or night. Though we may criticize it, this is our home, we love it, and we need to keep it. We have that right. So we ain't giving up no mountain, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one caress, not a blade of grass. So we ain't giving up no mountains, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one caress, not a blade of grass. We are a peaceful people, struggle is we struggle, and we don't look for trouble, just ask around. But when outside faces from foreign places talk about taking over, we ain't backing down. We ain't giving up no mountains, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one caress, not a blade of grass. This land is all I know. We gonna make it somehow. We will bend like a bow and never break. Our fathers came here and they lived and died here, and we ain't moving nowhere. Make no mistake, 'cause we ain't giving up no mountain, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one caress, not a blade of grass. We love the open country of the Rupununi and the Essequibo, daytime or night. Though we may criticize it, this is our home, we love it, and we need to keep it. We have that right. So we ain't giving up no mountain, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one caress, not a blade of grass. So we ain't giving up no mountains, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one chorus, not a blade of grass. We are a peaceful people, struggle is we struggle, and we don't look for trouble, just ask around. But when outside faces from foreign places talk about taking over, we ain't backing down. We ain't giving up no mountains, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one chorus, not a blade of grass. This land is all I know, we gonna make it somehow. We will bend like a bow and never break. Our fathers came here, and they lived and died here, and we ain't moving nowhere. Make no mistake, cause we ain't giving up no mountain, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one chorus, not a blade of grass. We love the open country of the Rupununi and the Essequibo, bedtime on night. Though we may criticize it, this is our home, we love it, and we need to keep it. We have that right. So we ain't giving up no mountain, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one chorus, not a blade of grass. So we ain't giving up no mountains, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one chorus, not a blade of grass. We are a peaceful people, struggle is we struggle, and we don't look for trouble, just ask around. But when outside faces from foreign places talk about taking over, we ain't backing down. We ain't giving up no mountains, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one chorus, not a blade of grass. This land is all I know, we gonna make it somehow. We will bend like a bow and never break. Our fathers came here, and they lived and died here, and we ain't moving nowhere. Make no mistake, Cause we ain't giving up no mountain. We ain't giving up no tree. We ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one rice, not a blade of grass. We love the open country of the Rupununi and the Essequibo, bedtime on night. Though we may criticize it, this is our home, we love it, and we need to keep it. We have that right. So we ain't giving up no mountain. We ain't giving up no tree. We ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one grass, not a blade of grass. So we ain't giving up no mountains. We ain't giving up no tree. We ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one chorus, not a blade of grass. We are a peaceful people. Struggle is with struggle, and we don't look for trouble. Just ask around. But when outside faces from foreign places talk about taking over, we ain't backing down. We ain't giving up no mountains. We ain't giving up no tree. We ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one chorus, not a blade of grass. This land is all I know. We gonna make it somehow. We will bend like a bow and never break. Our fathers came here and they lived and died here, and we ain't moving nowhere. Make no mistake, cause we ain't giving up no mountain. We ain't giving up no tree. We ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one chorus, not a blade of grass. We love the open country of the Rupununi and the Essequibo, bedtime on night. Though we may criticize it, this is our home, we love it, and we need to keep it. We have that right. So we ain't giving up no mountain. We ain't giving up no tree. We ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one chorus, not a blade of grass. So we ain't giving up no mountains. We ain't giving up no tree. We ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one chorus, not a blade of grass. We are a peaceful people. Struggle is with struggle, and we don't look for trouble, just ask around. But when outside faces from foreign places talk about taking over, we ain't backing down. We ain't giving up no mountains, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one caress, not a blade of grass. This land is all I know. We gonna make it somehow. We will bend like a bow and never break. Our fathers came here and they lived and died here, and we ain't moving nowhere. Make no mistake, 'cause we ain't giving up no mountain, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one caress, not a blade of grass. We love the open country of the Rupununi and the Essequibo, the time on it. Though we may criticize it, this is our home, we love it, and we need to keep it. We have that right. So we ain't giving up no mountain, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one caress, not a blade of grass. So we ain't giving up no mountains, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one caress, not a blade of grass. We are a peaceful people, struggle is with struggle, and we don't look for trouble, just ask around. But when outside faces from foreign places talk about taking over, we ain't backing down. We ain't giving up no mountains, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one caress, not a blade of grass. This land is all I know. We gonna make it somehow. We will bend like a bow and never break. Our fathers came here and they lived and died here, and we ain't moving nowhere. Make no mistake, 'cause we ain't giving up no mountain, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one caress, not a blade of grass. We love the open country of the Rupununi and the Essequibo, the time on it. Though we may criticize it, this is our home, we love it, and we need to keep it. We have that right. So we ain't giving up no mountain, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one caress, not a blade of grass. So we ain't giving up no mountains, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one chorus, not a blade of grass.
We here gathered together, we most humbly beseech thee to guide us in all our consultations, so that we may together build a land where knowledge is free, where the mind is without fear, and the head is held high, and where words come from the depth of truth. Grant us, O God, thy aid and guidance, so that we may deal justly with the several causes that come before us, laying aside all private interests, prejudices, and personal preferences, so that the result of our counsels may be to the glory of thy blessed name, the maintenance of true religion, the preservation of justice, the safety, honor, and the happiness of the President, and the peace and prosperity of Guyana. Grant us, O God, the vision so to lead that all the people of this fair land may enter that state of brotherhood and unity, where the mind is led forward by thee into ever-widening thought and action.
Thank you. Please be seated.
Announcements by the Speaker.
Honorable members, we are doing a bit better with respect to time. I am appealing to whoever can be to get me a school bell. We've been looking all over the city. Apparently, Minister Manichan may have procured all of it. But we're still looking for that bell to get persons to come into the dome or sign in so that we can have a quorum and start in a more prompt fashion. Today, we have students from Richard Ishmael Secondary School and two teachers. Welcome, Richard Ishmael. And to my right, we have two teachers and students from Christ Church Secondary School. And I know they're anxiously awaiting to move into that spanking new building at Middle and Camp Street. So welcome to the schools. We also have Her Excellency Ambassador Smith joining us from the FAO representative to Guyana. Thank you.
Presentation of petitions, presentation of papers and reports, etc. Reports from committees, oral questions without notice, questions and notice, statements by ministers including policy statements, personal explanations, requests for leave to move the adjournment of the National Assembly on definite matters of urgent public importance, motions relating to the business or sittings of the National Assembly and moved by a minister, introduction of bills, public business, government's business.
Honorable members, we will now continue the debate on the motion for the approval of the estimates of expenditure for financial year 2025. Today's first speaker is the Honorable Member, Mr. Vince Roy Jordan.
job and show them how he's doing.
What? Where is why?
13 years, right? Region 5.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to say good morning to all my colleagues and those visiting today in the National Assembly. Mr. Speaker, I rise to add my voice to the budget debates of 2025. Mr. Speaker, while this national budget is important, I stand today not to speak heavily on its content, but rather on the management and execution of its allocation. For it is that what the Guyanese people use as measuring sticks to unseat this incompetent, uncaring, heartless, and unscrupulous regime from office. Yes, sir, not just the numbers, but what is allocated for the development and transformation of the lives of every Guyanese. And that is exactly what this budget lacks. Mr. Speaker, permit me to touch briefly on region number 5. Mr. Speaker, almost 5 years in, and this government remains incompetent at the regional level as it were from the beginning of its term. Sir, the Minister of Local Government will come to this House and boast about the PSIP and how it achieved 99 and 100% across programs as at December 2024. But sir, let me help you understand how ineffectual and layback this government is. Mr. Speaker, at mid-year, the PSIP in Region 5 stood just below 30%. Mr. Speaker, by September 2024, the progress report remained just around 30%. By November 2024, the report was just under 50%, sir, and millions of dollars were unspent. Yet by the end of the year, they boast of completing their work program. They could not have, Mr. Speaker. Sir, permit me to highlight the incompetence of the Mahaica-Borbis Region Administration. Mr. Speaker, we still have several unfinished schools. Mr. Speaker, schools are in need of repairs and maintenance, and the Honorable Zulfa Mustafa knows that, sir. Mr. Speaker, the evidence is clear. Just check the number of schools that remain closed in Guyana at the opening of the school term in September and as recent as January. Mr. Speaker, as a result of the incompetence of the local government minister Sonia Parag, the Bushlot Secondary School has been under repairs since September, Mr. Speaker, of last year. And the children go to school on a rotational basis. Sir, a parent was severely injured during a parent-teachers conference at the very school when a huge beam fell from the roof, hitting her on the head, Mr. Speaker. That is the incompetence of the Honorable Sonia Parag, Mr. Speaker. Sir, the Hope Town Nursery School started construction in the middle of the September school term when the budget was passed in February of 2024. So you would understand, sir, when we talk about incompetence. Mr. Speaker, the incompetence is further demonstrated at Public Health, Region number 5. As a result of poor performance under the work program, our hospitals are having shortages of drugs and little or no cleaning supplies. Mr. Speaker, just like Timeri, as many would say, Mr. Speaker, we demand that the medical outreach and public assistance program started under the APNU AFC government led by David Arthur Granger and was discontinued by this heartless PPP government be restored to the people of Champagne Creek immediately, Mr. Speaker. Be restored immediately, Mr. Speaker. 2 months in and they removed the program, Mr. Speaker. Now our pensioners have to go to the hospital traveling miles and paying thousands of dollars to seek medical health care, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, while this government remains incompetent, the residents of Region number 5 suffer in many cases with impassable roads, sir, mud streets and dams filled with large potholes. Not the one that the Honorable Jafradi lives on, sir. Sir, the incompetence is so grave that the road to Champagne Creek, Myconi was placed on 3 budgets, sir, and never completed. I repeat for emphasis, the road was placed on 3 budgets, sir, and it was never completed. Mr. Speaker, as we speak, sir, the road is now under construction by the Ministry of Public Works, and that is as a result of the visiting of the opposition leader, Mr. Speaker, who had to highlight the plight of the people, Mr. Speaker. That is how this government operates, Mr. Speaker. They only run when the opposition leader visits and speak, Mr. Speaker. They run after him, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, might I remind this Jack Dio-led regime that change in regional executive officers in region number 5 will not solve the problems of nepotism, cronyism, and incompetence. By now, this government has changed 3 REOs, Mr. Speaker. 3 REOs in region number 5 in 5 years. Mr. Speaker, with one resigning just 2 days after taking the job, Mr. Speaker, and the other acting for several months until his incompetent minister said, time up. Mr. Speaker, all that in administrative management and region number 5 is in no better place, sir. Sir, what is sure, however, is that the people of region number 5 are aware of the number of contracts that are handed out to the friends, families, and favorites of this government. Sir, with this new budget, the Minister of Local Government must tell us how much of the allocations for region number 5 will go to the companies associated with the friends and families of the PPPC. Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Local Government must tell this House why the former chief accountant of region number 5 was made to resign and how many contracts, sir, were awarded to his company that was registered in his, or rather is registered in his name while he sat as a chief accountant. Mr. Speaker, the same must be done for the other senior officials in region number 5 whose companies are registered, sir, whose companies are registered in the names of friends, families, and favorites. And Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Jaffer Ali would know. He would know about the companies, sir, and he can tell us about the phantom companies, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, one must come to the reality that Guyana has a large percentage of its population living in poverty. Sir, it was reported that 48% of Guyanese are living in poverty. Mr. Speaker, this budget does not cater to the needs of the 48% of our population living in poverty. Sir, while a few measures are reasonable, permit me to say to the Minister with responsibility for finance what the Guyanese people are saying. Mr. Speaker, Guyanese are saying that the 100,000 one-off cash grant will not solve the issues of poverty, that the 100,000 for every newborn to Guyanese mother will definitely not solve the issues of poverty in Guyana, that the meager $5,000 increase in old age pension will certainly not solve the issues of poverty in Guyana. Mr. Speaker, further, the meager $3,000 increase in public assistance will definitely not solve the issues of poverty in Guyana. Mr. Speaker, the 10-day part-time job will not solve the 48% of poverty in Guyana at $40,000 a month. Mr. Speaker, Guyanese want this government to know that a 130,000 monthly tax-free threshold will not reduce the 48% rate of poverty in Guyana. Sir, what the Guyanese require is a livable income to begin the reduction of poverty in Guyana. Mr. Speaker, let it be made abundantly clear that upon return to office later in 2025, the coalition government will increase the income tax threshold to $400,000, and all Guyanese can then experience a life of prosperity with a 35% increase in wages and salaries. Mr. Speaker, permit me to touch on food security, sir. Mr. Speaker, Permit me to dissect the minister's speech on agriculture and food security. Mr. Speaker, the minister with responsibility for finance spoke gloriously about food security and increase in food production. Sir, every Guyanese, including you, sir, and the minister will know that this is far from the truth. Mr. Speaker, if the food is being produced, why the continued increased prices in the market? Mr. Speaker, if the food is being produced, why the extreme shortages in the market? Mr. Speaker, this incapable, incompetent PPP government must answer those questions. Mr. Speaker, this is the reality. A 10 kg bag of rice in 2020 was $1,600, sir. In 2024, it is now $2,500. Mr. Speaker, a bottle of oil in 2020 was $1,500. In 2024, it is now $3,700. Mr. Speaker, a pound of sugar that we produce, Mr. Speaker, was $120. Now in 2024, it is about $300, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, a parcel of boro for a family of 5 in 2020 was $300. Mr. Speaker, in 2024, the same parcel, Mr. Speaker, is $1,000 and more, sir. Mr. Speaker, a pound of tomato in 2020 was $120. Now in 2024, tomatoes are selling at $260 per pound, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, a slice of pumpkin for all of Guyana to see was $200 in 2020. Mr. Speaker, in 2024, a slice of pumpkin is $1,300, Mr. Speaker. That is the food security the Honorable Minister is speaking about, Mr. Speaker. Sir, butter that is widely used by all like flour and sugar in 2020 was $240 a pound. Mr. Speaker, in 2024, it is now $650 a pound. Mr. Speaker, potato in 2020 was $120 a pound, sir. In 2024, potato is now $247, sir. Mr. Speaker, I challenge them to go to Bounty and go to the market and check the prices, and you will see the reality that prices has indeed increased, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the minister spoke about the 2.9% estimated inflation rate for 2024. Sir, the minister and his government should know that all Guyanese feel it is more like 15 to 18% inflation in 2024. There's an old saying, Mr. Speaker, that who feels it knows it. And they don't feel it, Mr. Speaker. They don't go to the markets, Mr. Speaker. They don't go to the shops, Mr. Speaker. And so they don't know what it feels like, Mr. Speaker, to stand under the heavy burden of inflation. Mr. Speaker, the minister himself told us in his budget document that even the malnourished and moderately malnourished have increased significantly among Guyanese. In one case, it states that the severely malnourished rate increased from 0.1 in 2020 to 0.5 in 2024, moving upwards by 300%. And the other case, Mr. Speaker, moderately malnourished, that category of Guyanese increased from 0.5 in 2020 to 1.4 in 2024. Mr. Speaker, our good friend, the Honorable Jennifer Westford, came to this house yesterday and said that you need to see the people who are malnourished. Mr. Speaker, in the very government, there are living examples of people who are malnourished right here in Guyana, Mr. Speaker. We don't have to go far. It is evident right across in the government, Mr. Speaker. Sir, this alone is a clear indication that the minister reports on food security, or his report rather, on food security is far from the truth, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let the minister tell us about the healthy foods and why these categories of Guyanese were unable to receive the required foods. Mr. Speaker, the failures of the Ministry of Agriculture are so evident and even so ever present. Since everywhere you look, you can see the failures, sir. Sir, it ranges from Gaisuko to drainage, to irrigation, to crops and livestock, and many more. Mr. Speaker, to compound the situation, the failures and mismanagement Mr. Speaker, are widened with wrongdoings. And we know when we speak about wrongdoings, Mr. Speaker, it stands in the place of that C word. Mr. Speaker, here are some failures, mismanagements, and wrongdoings that occurred during the last year that this minister, Mr. Speaker, failed to mention in his budget presentation as either challenges, sir. He failed to mention in his presentation this year that these are either challenges or either missteps, Mr. Speaker, of this government. But, sir, I will want to highlight some of these missteps, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, massive fraud was uncovered at the Guyana Marketing Corporation after the general manager ordered an audit. The accountant and special projects managers were fingered. Kaito News, September 12, 2024. Mr. Speaker, General Minister of Agriculture knows very well what I'm talking about. Mr. Speaker, the wrongdoings continued at the Mahaika-Maikoni-Abari Agricultural Development Authority. That organization, sir, admitted to misappropriation by staff members that was uncovered and claimed to immediately deal with it, Mr. Speaker. We are still waiting, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, at the GLDA, the chairman admitted that there was damages to thousands of duck eggs and suspected sabotage. To date, sir, there is no disclosure. Mr. Speaker, at Gaisuko Albion Estate, the power destroyed by fire, causing a delay in the start of the crop and estimating just over $50 million in damages, as was reported by Gaisuko. Sir, we saw and heard in this very house requests for monies to make payments of over $600 million for a $50 million damage. That is the reality in this government, Mr. Speaker. Wrongdoings. Mr. Speaker, over at Rosal Estate, it was reported that over 240 tons of sugar were unaccounted for, while senior managers were sacked. To date, no probe has been launched. Mr. Speaker, you will recall the opposition reported that chickens were being smuggled from Suriname, allegedly by senior government officials. To date, sir, no audit has been launched. Mr. Speaker, you will know, sir, that several pump stations across Guyana remain incomplete while billions of dollars were spent with no works to show. Mr. Speaker, I spoke extensively about the inclusion body hepatitis IBH pandemic in the poultry sector. Mr. Speaker, it caused the mortality rate to increase exponentially. I saw hundreds of poultry farmers losing thousands of layers and broilers. And to date, sir, nothing was done by the Ministry of Agriculture to curb this crisis, as it has since worsened as we speak today. Mr. Speaker, that is the reality on the ground. I challenge the Honorable Zulfikar Mustafa, sir, to visit the local farmers. I challenge him, sir, not to be interested only in chickens coming across the borders, Mr. Speaker, but that he go to the local farms and see the plight and struggle of our farmers. Mr. Speaker, the chickens are not being properly vaccinated, sir, and that is the reality. Mr. Speaker, we saw hundreds of farmers and households counting their losses and certainly not being compensated, Mr. Speaker, after being flooded as sluices and cocas gave way across this country due to poor maintenance and lack of servicing. Only as recently as 3 months ago, Mr. Speaker, causing severe flooding in Calcutta, Catherine, Good Faith, and Dundee Maikoni. Mr. Speaker, and the minister knows because we were both on the scene at the same time. Mr. Speaker, he knows, and they will blame it. They will blame it on high tide and spring tide, sir. But Mr. Speaker, whether it is high tide or spring tide or no tide, our infrastructure must be able to stand against the tides of the day, Mr. Speaker. And so I call it, Honorable Zulfikar, your incompetence, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Our fisher folks are still awaiting the fishing and trawler license between Guyana and Suriname. Mr. Speaker, permit me to touch on the rice expansion and cheaper production of our intended coalition government. Mr. Speaker, sir, the next coalition government will fast track the production of nitrogen fertilizer in Guyana through direct government investments. We see the local fertilizer industry as a game changer, sir, in terms of boosting agricultural production, reducing food prices by 25 to 30%, growing the income of tens of thousands of farmers, bringing marginal lands into commercial viability, boosting rural economies, and guaranteeing Guyana's food security. Mr. Speaker, I want to assure all our rice farmers that the coalition government, when it takes office, Mr. Speaker, will reduce the cost of rice production with this initiative. Mr. Speaker, permit me to touch on DNI. Mr. Speaker, our future coalition government will place special emphasis on drainage and irrigation in a structured manner, sir. Mr. Speaker, we will create a special sector with a minister responsible for drainage and irrigation and properly decentralize DNI to every region, Mr. Speaker. And watch the operative word, Honorable Zulfikar, properly, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, like region number 9, Mr. Speaker, we will, with a special focus on the hinterland regions, especially the Upper Takoto Essequibo, where we will develop new and improved DNI infrastructure that will significantly reduce the chances of flooding during the rainy or wet seasons, Mr. Speaker. And, sir, develop a proper water management system that will build upon the previous work of the APNU AFC government. In that, we will build more secured reservoirs to store water for the entire Rupert Nuni savannas during the dry seasons. Mr. Speaker, that is a fact of the coalition government. We have started that, sir. Mr. Speaker, this government is kleptocratic and unscrupulous. It lacks the credibility and ability to devise strategies, plans, and execute large projects. Mr. Speaker, I want to repeat for emphasis that my colleague, the Honorable Kwame McCoy, came into the House now. This government is kleptocratic and unscrupulous. It lacks the credibility and ability to devise the strategies, plans and executions of large projects. Mr. Speaker, we don't have to go far. The Skeldon modernization project. Mr. Speaker, the fiber optic cable project. Mr. Speaker, let me get back to my speech, Mr. Speaker. With that in mind, sir, we see the need for increase and improve infrastructure in DNI across Guyana, considering the challenges of climate change and its consequences. Hence, sir, the reason why our next coalition government will place much focus on sector management and improvement, not wanting the cases of Tipio, Belwest, and Cottage Pump Station to ever repeat itself ever again in Guyana. Mr. Speaker, you, sir, like many Guyanese will know that this PPP government is incompetent and it thrives on hatching deals with its friends, families, and favorites. Sir, you will remember that a contract was awarded by NDIA almost 2 years ago to the Tupeo Construction Company, owned and managed by a well-known Guyanese critics. Sir, its completion date was slated for 12 months after, and today it stands at just over 15% completed after spending over $800 million, Mr. Speaker. Nothing is there to show for the works, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I hear the Honorable Minister shouting across from the other side. But, Mr. Speaker, let me continue. The Minister with responsibility for finance in the middle of his budget presentation wandered off on a tangent to talk about sea and river defense at the Columbia-Maiconi foreshore. Mr. Speaker, let me tell the Honorable Minister of Finance, successive Jagdeo and Ramatar PPPC governments are equally responsible for the deterioration and eventual destruction of the sea defense along the Danzig to Columbia foreshore. Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Barra Jack Dio spent 12 years as president, while Ramatar spent just over 3 years, totaling 15 plus years of the PPP government having knowledge of a deteriorating sea defense. Sir, I will prove my case, Mr. Speaker, by saying on several occasions during both presidents' tenure in office, they patched and partially rehabilitated that very sea defense, Mr. Speaker. Sir, it is disingenuous of the Minister of Finance, Mr. Speaker, he has only responsibilities, not the minister, to come to this house and cast blame on the APNU AFC government for that breach, Mr. Speaker, of the sea defense, when in fact, sir, they had 23 years to fix it, Mr. Speaker, and they never did. Mr. Speaker, that apart, sir, almost 5 years in, and they budgeted billions of dollars to fix that very sea defense. Today, sir, I recently visited that site, and after spending billions of dollars, Mr. Speaker, they are still driving piles, Mr. Speaker. They are still driving piles while the breaches continue to happen at several points along the seashore. Mr. Speaker, a time is coming, sir. Mr. Speaker, a time is coming, and let me say it loud and clear. When Guyanese will judge this incompetent government, when Guyanese will judge this kleptocratic, lackluster, and dysfunctional puppet-like government led by Jack Dio, Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Vice President, Mr. Speaker, the answer of my Guyanese brothers and sisters will certainly be depart.
I have to stop you there because you're imputing on behalf of a sitting member of the House, right? And you have to withdraw that.
Thank you, sir. Withdrawn. Mr. Speaker, our Guyanese brothers and sisters will overwhelmingly will say, depart from me, you workers of iniquity. I know you not, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Guyanese across this country must know that by the poor performance of the industry, and now, sir, I come to Gaisuko, that by the poor performance of the industry, our government continues to sell sugar at a price far below the cost of production. That in essence, sir, this government continues to subsidize the foreign economy by making Guyanese pay through taxes the cost for each pound of sugar produced and sold below the price of production. Mr. Speaker, let me state emphatically that the 2025 sugar production, sir, the target set by this incompetent government is an unrealistic and unclear plan to create a false impression, knowing fully well that it will fail, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is not rocket science, sir. Mr. Speaker, under the PPPC government from 2020 to 2024, Gaisuko has failed to meet every target, Mr. Speaker, every target set by the Sugar Corporation, even when they significantly revised and reduced those targets. Mr. Speaker, I will hear shortly, Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Zulfikar Mustafa will shout from the top of his voice as I go deeper. But Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Minister, like the Honorable Finance Minister, is a product of free under successive PNCR governments. But Mr. Speaker, it is not my fault for his inability to grasp much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this 115% in the target of 100 metric tons announced by the Minister for 2025 must be an election gimmick, sir. But sadly, not many Guyanese are prepared to buy this one. Mr. Speaker, here are the stats. Mr. Speaker, in 2021, the sugar production target was 79,000 thereabout, and the actual production was 58,000, Mr. Speaker. They fall short by over 21,000. Mr. Speaker, in 2022, it was around $80,000. The actual 80,000 metric tons. The actual production was 47,000 metric tons, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in 2023, the target was 70,000 metric tons. The actual production, Mr. Speaker, was just around 60,000 metric tons. Mr. Speaker, in 2024, the minister stood and shouted to the top of his voice that they will produce 100,000 metric tons. Mr. Speaker, the actual production is only 47,000 tons. Mr. Speaker, he woefully fell short of over 50% of that production, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Guyanese must take note that all this happened after the PPPC government brought teams of experts to revive the sugar industry, spending millions, if not billions of taxpayers' dollars. And they continue to read the Riot Act, sir. Mr. Speaker, in August 2008, then President Barry Jagdeo read the Riot Act, and I quote, Kaichor News, 21st August 2008, President Jagdeo has stressed that the government does not intend to subsidize this loss-making entity at the expense of education and health in our country.
Honorable member, at the expense of cutting you off totally, we need to stop here to give you an extension.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Comrade Speaker. Comrade Speaker, I do move that the honourable member be given 5 minutes to conclude his presentation.
Honorable member, you may continue to conclude.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this same person then argued against his own words when we right-sized the sugar industry. Sad, Mr. Speaker. Sir, in 2022, the Riot Act was read again, and I quote, Village Voice, 14th June 2022, President reads Riot Act to fail in Gaisuko. No place for CEO at the table. Mr. Speaker, fast forward to December 2024, the Riot Act was read again. This time, Demerara Waves, 21st December 2024, reports, and I quote, President reads Riot Act to Gaisuko top brass and warns, heads will roll. They detail that the president on Friday said, or rather he read the Riot Act to the management of the loss-making and low-producing Guyana Sugar Corporation, Gaisuko, even as the entity's new investment was being considered by the government. I've let them understand that we are dissatisfied with the performance. Mr. Speaker, let me make it clear again. No heads will roll. This is the usual rail and rant, and no action will be taken. Sir, the only heads that must roll at this time are those of the incompetent PPPC government, starting with the incompetent Honorable Zulfikar Mustafa, after spending $40 billion, failed to produce one set target in 5 years, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, he failed to turn around the industry. He failed to reopen the Skeldon and East Demerara estates. Mr. Speaker, they promised, Mr. Speaker, in their manifesto. Mr. Speaker, he failed to return Gaisuko to profitability according to the PPP's manifesto on page 13. Mr. Speaker, he failed to ensure that better management and greater efficiency was returned. Sir, this minister is a complete failure on Gaisuko. Mr. Speaker, the PPP campaigned on Gaisuko. They spread their usual racial rhetoric, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, they persuaded Guyanese, especially our Indo-Guyanese brothers and sisters, that in the Sugar Belt community, and they said the coalition was bad for Gaisuko. Mr. Speaker, today, sir, the facts are clear. The PPP failed Guyanese in its manifesto promise. Mr. Speaker, I challenge you to read page 13 of the PPP manifesto, and you will see, sir, a slew of measures they all failed to complete. Mr. Speaker, worse yet, Mr. Speaker, here is what the finance minister will not tell Guyanese in his budget presentation. He will not tell Guyanese, Mr. Speaker, that Gaisuko is not making returns to NIS. Mr. Speaker, he will not tell Guyanese that under the PPPC government, Gaisuko became the largest debtor to NIS, or that our factory and field workers, NIS contributions are not being paid in. Mr. Speaker, the minister will not tell us His government spent over $40 billion on Gaisuko since taking office, and they lost equally, Mr. Speaker, over $22 billion. In 2021, Mr. Speaker, they lost $7.8 billion. Mr. Speaker, in 2022, Gaisuko lost $10.2 billion. Sir, in 2023, they lost $4.7 billion. Mr. Speaker, I want to assure all that the coalition government will develop Gaisuku. Mr. Speaker, sir, we have long said that the best decision was to right-size the industry. We remain committed to diversifying the industry. We remain committed to ensuring that Gaisuko crop by crop bakes set production targets. Mr. Speaker, we will ensure that a competent and skilled board of directors is installed to oversee the proper management of Gaisuko. We, sir, will not manage Gaisuko in the friends and family affairs, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I spoke to several factory and field workers, Mr. Speaker, and management across Guyana. They all echo the similar sentiments. They said Gaisuko can do well, sir. But the problem is the PPP government. Its incompetence coupled with some sections, Mr. Speaker, of management and the unfair treatment of many middle-class managers. Mr. Speaker, the ILO study showed that more jobs were lost in the sugar industry under the PPP than under the PNCR coalition. Mr. Speaker, the study says on page 24 that there were 28,081 workers employed by Gaisuko. Mr. Speaker, the report further noted that by May 2015, Mr. Speaker, the Guyana Sugar Corporation was in dire financial straits, and the number of employees reduced to 16,900, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, that was done by the PPP government, a reduction of 11,154 workers. This in comparison to the PNCR and coalition years in office, Mr. Speaker. We saw 325 jobs that were lost under Boredom and Hoyt and 5,160 under the coalition. Mr. Speaker, they like to talk about 7,000 sugar workers being displaced. But Mr. Speaker, in 1976, there were 12 sugar estates in Guyana. By 2015, when the coalition took office, there were only 6 sugar estates, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the PPPC closed 6 sugar estates between 1992 and 2015. They closed more than us, Mr. Speaker. They closed more than us. Mr. Speaker, permit me, sir, to touch in conclusion, sir. Here are some of the policies our next coalition government will adopt to further develop the agriculture sector. Mr. Speaker, we will establish a National Agriculture Council to advise the Ministry of Agriculture on policy decisions and sector development. The council will include, Mr. Speaker, representatives from farmers, organizations, industry experts, and relevant stakeholders to provide balanced and practical recommendations. Mr. Speaker, we will coordinate the promotion of agricultural development in every region to increase, Mr. Speaker, agricultural production, food availability, and accessibility in pursuance of a sustainable agriculture sector across Guyana. Mr. Speaker, we will review and develop a national drainage and irrigation framework while decentralizing offices and services in every region, making, Mr. Speaker, DNI a core sector of focus and responsibility in the Ministry of Agriculture. Mr. Speaker, we will establish a department within the DNI responsible for the study and development of water storage reservoirs, Mr. Speaker, and have allocations in hinterland and highland regions, for example, Central Rupununi. Mr. Speaker, we will initiate a task force that will review, advise, and oversee the structural changes in administration at all regional levels. Delivery, Mr. Speaker, of agricultural service by the agencies under the Ministry of Agriculture. For example, sir, all agencies at the regional level should be brought under the coordinated supervision of a regional coordinator or a head of agricultural services. Mr. Speaker, we will develop and implement programs that promote market-driven agricultural production with focus on enhancing both quality and quantity. Mr. Speaker, adopting international standards such as hazard analysis, critical control points, good agricultural practices, and global gap for safe, high-quality agricultural productions. Mr. Speaker, our next government will establish business incubators aimed at supporting youth, women, and vulnerable groups by providing access to land, grants, soft loans, training, and market access. Mr. Speaker, we will collaborate with financial institutions such as the Institute for Private Enterprise Development, IPED, and the International Institute for Cooperation in Agriculture to offer favorable loans, Mr. Speaker, or loan condition and grants tailored to support agricultural startups, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we will implement strict zoning regulations to safeguard agricultural lands from residential or industrial encroachment, establish a land allocation and review community, sir, that the Ministry of Agriculture, after consultation with the Mahaika-Maikoni Agricultural Development Authority, Mr. Speaker, and the Guyana Lands and Survey Commission and local authority. Mr. Speaker, I see that you indicated that the time is up. But, sir, we have a slew of other measures that will improve agriculture in Guyana, sir. And, sir, with the coalition taking office, we will enact and we will ensure that this becomes a reality and that this sector will be turned around under the coalition government. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. Honorable Member, there were two citations in your presentation, and we need you to present the copies immediately to the clerk. The ILO and the 48% poverty rate. And now for the Honorable Minister of Agriculture, the Honorable Zulfikar Mustafa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I want to join with you in welcoming our students to this debate here this morning. And I think it was a very bad example just now. And our young people must know the fact what has happened in our country. The story has to be told. The story has to be told. We should not come into this house with a prepared speech and bury our head and read from starting to end. Let us debate. A debate is to debate issues, and we will debate it. So, Mr. Speaker, I want these young people here today to know, first of all, the legacy of the PPP Civic and the legacy of the APNU-AFC. Let us, the young people must know the facts, or else when they leave here today, they will leave with wrong impression. All the misinformation, all the allegations that were made just now was just false. So, Mr. Speaker, every time there is a PPP Civic government, we always see progress, development, and benefit to the people of our country. Every time we have a PPP Civic government, we always have development taking place, benefit to the people, stability, growth. And Mr. Speaker, what we have seen over the years, and let us categorize the period. Let us look at period 1966 to 1992. 1966 to 1992 was PNC rule for 28 years, 1964. What were their legacy? Rigged election. Banning of basic food items the young people must know. Things like dal, potato, split peas, sardine, everything, flour was banned. The young people must know that that was banned. The PNC banned it for us. We never had it. If you had sardine or you had split peas You doing a Jandy, you had to go to jail under the PNC regime from 1966 to 1992. We had the underdevelopment. We had party paramountcy. The PNC flag was flown over the Court of Appeal in this country, the PNC paramountcy. Mr. Honorable Member Jordan wasn't born as yet. He must read the history of his party. Rather than come here with a prepared speech, somebody prepared the speech and gave him, and he come read it here. We had economic crisis after crisis. Guyana, people were fleeing Guyana. We had potholes. We had dilapidated infrastructure. That was the legacy of the PNC. That was the legacy of the PNC, and the young people must know that is their history. So from 1992, and Mr. Speaker, I want to say something here. All the elections that was held in this country before 1992 were rigged by the PNC in this country. Elections held in 1968, 1973, 1980, 1985, all those elections were rigged by the PNC, and they put themselves in power. They stole the vote of the people. They stole the democratic rights of the people in this country. We had elections in 1992, and they were forced. They were forced by the Carter Center and other international powers to implement electoral reform. We had the counting of the ballot at the place of poll in 1992, and what happened? The PPP Civic won a majority and took over this country. And from 1992 to 2015, Mr. Speaker, the young people must know the history. The story must be told. From 1992 to 2015, we had stability. We have free and fair elections all the time. The elections of 1997, the election of 2001, 2006, 2011, 2015, all those elections were free and fair, was declared by international observer under the People's Progressive Party Civic. That's the story. That's the legacy.
Mr. Speaker.
So, Mr.
Speaker, point.
Honorable Member, Mr. Jones.
Mr. Speaker, point to order. Could the Honorable Minister produce the evidence of these rigged elections? Because we only know about 1997 election that was vitiated in a court in Guyana.
Honorable Member, I allow the Minister to continue.
Mr. Speaker, those are published reports. Those are public knowledge. Those are public knowledge. And we had international observer pronounce on the rigged elections under the PNC. Mr. Speaker, and then we had stability in this country from 1992. What we had in this country, Mr. Speaker, we had democratic renewal. We had the economy, we rebuilt the economy. There was hope and optimism in the people of our country. Many persons came back to live in Guyana. That was the legacy of the PPP from 1992 to 2015. And Mr. Speaker, no, I didn't miss anything. From 2015, they had another chance. People thought to give them another chance that they will change. What they did. From 2015 to 2020, leaving out all the burdens they have placed on the backs of the Guyanese people, leaving out all the hardships they have implemented. They caused Guyana to lost its place in CARICOM. But the most damning thing was once again rigged election in this country. That was their legacy. That is their legacy. Mr. Speaker, if it's a responsible party, responsible government. The young people must know these things, or else they'll go away with wrong facts. Because just now we were regaled with misinformation. We were regaled with misinformation and allegations. I am just putting the facts. Mr. Speaker, we had a no confidence motion. They squatted 1 year in government. Eventually we had the election in March. Eventually we had the election in March of 2020. And what we did, everybody pronounced that the election was held according to all the rules. Even they themselves pronounced on it. And when they know they lost the election, they hold on to power for 5 months. They want to take away a country in front of the eyes of the world. 5 months they squatted in government. Although we had elections in March of 2020. In March of 2020, they came out of government in August of 2020. That is their legacy. That is their legacy. So what we saw in that period, Mr. Speaker, we saw rigged election once again. We saw heavy taxation. We saw economic burden on the backs of the people. We saw a number of retrogressive steps was taken by the APNU-AFC government. And Mr. Speaker, what we are seeing now, we are seeing a new era. A new era has been dawned now from 2020. An era where Guyana credibility has been restored to the world. An era where Guyana is making its contribution to the world in terms of energy, in terms of food security, and in terms of climate change. We are leading in those areas. We are being recognized around the world. Not like APNU-AFC, we lost our place in CARICOM in 2015. We lose that place because of your ineptitude. Now, Mr. Speaker, we are seeing massive transformation taking place. We are seeing Guyana being the fastest growing economy in the world. We are seeing benefit to the people. We are seeing cash transfer to the people. Those are the legacy of the People's Progressive Party civic on this country, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, you can see the 4 periods. The young people must know the 4 periods that we're talking about. Must see whenever the APNU, AFC, PNC are in government, we have economic depression, we have rigged election, we have banned items, we have a lot of crimes. And whenever the People's Progressive Party civic is in government, we have economic prosperity. We have Guyana regaining its glory on the international stage. That's the legacy of the two parties. That's the legacy of the two parties. So we must not come here and bury our head in a speech. I could have rebutted all the things, every single thing that Mr. Jordan, honorable member, mentioned. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to set the record straight. That's the records. The record is that when we bring development to this country, every single stratum of society enjoys it. You can be PNCR, APNU, AFC, PPPC, everybody getting the 100,000 cash grant, everybody getting the pension increase, the public assistance, and every other thing, health care, education expansion, every single sector. And this brings me to the point. Mr. Speaker, one of the most dismal performance of the APNU-AFC, agriculture. There should have been a last person to speak on agriculture. They destroy the agriculture sector in this country. And Mr. Speaker, I want to change the perception that they are trying to create in this country. They want the people in this country to believe. They want the people in this country to believe that sugar started decline under the PPP civic government. I want to give you the records. I want to give this as a record, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in 2015, the last year we were in government, sugar production was 231,071 tons, metric tons. In 2019, Mr. Speaker, sugar production dropped to 92,256,000 tons, a 60% decrease in sugar under the APNU time. Under the APNU, sugar declined by 60%. They closed down 4 sugar factories. And we heard all the legend. Honorable Suresh Singh said last night here how he was affected when his father was sent home. And there are thousands of Suresh Singhs around this country whose fathers were sent home, whose parents were sent home, who never had a job to take care of their family. That's the legacy of the PNC APNU. And Mr. Speaker, I want to bring to this record the legacy of the PNC again. Mr. Speaker, I have here in my hand a lease. Mr. Speaker, I have here in my hand a lease. Now, Mr. Speaker, this lease that I have in my hand is from the MMA, ADA. And Mr. Speaker, listen to this lease. The former chairman of MMA Board of Director, by the name, and I can call the name, Mr. Kevin Saul. He was the chairman under APNUFC. What he did? All right, the former chairman, I withdraw the name, but the former chairman. These are facts I have here, and I will lay this in the National Assembly. Mr. Speaker, their chairman took away people's land and took 10,000 acres of land from MMA. 10,000 acres, Mr. Speaker. Now, Indo-Guyanese, who was affected? Mr. Jordan, honorable member, your own countryman. Their own Afro-Guyanese who y'all claim supporting y'all. They were discriminated against. Mr. Speaker, they are sitting up there. Look up there. Look, raise your hand, let me see you. Raise your hand. Those are the people. Those are the people, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, hear this testimonial. Mr. Speaker, hear this testimonial. I, Harold H. Booker, of Lot 35 Seafield, West Coast Berbice, am a rice farmers who have devoted over 20 years to cultivating rice to sustain my family. I'm a husband and father to 4 children, and our very survival depended on the livelihood that rice farming provided. Mr. Speaker, in 2014, MMA ADA granted land in our village for farming, allowing us to work the soil and provide for our families. I was allocated 10 acres of state land in the Weir of Seafield, West Coast Berbice. However, on March the 18th, 2016, they didn't have the respect to go and send a notice to these people. A notice was published in the Stabrook News, revealed that my lease has been revoked by the MMA ADA under the Granger administration. That's the legacy of the APNU. The young people must know these things. Poor farmers who are tilling the land to make a living for their family. Their lands were taken away by the callousness of the APNUFC. Mr. Speaker, the decision to cancel my lease, listen to this one. The decision to cancel my lease came without warning, and the pressure placed on us as farmers was immense. We were forcibly removed from the land that has been our source of hope and sustenance. The consequence of this decision was devastating. I was stripped of the ability to provide for my family and forced to search desperately for alternative means of survival. The pain of watching my children face uncertainty and hardship weighed heavily on me to this day. Mr. Speaker, that's the testimonial. And then Mr. Honorable Member, Mr. Jordan, coming here with a prepared speech. Somebody prepare a speech and give him come and read and talk about all the wrong things in agriculture, which is not truth, untruth, which is a misrepresentation, is what is happening. Mr. Speaker, When you come into this house debate like this, come with facts and talk. Let us hear what is happening. Don't come and read and bend your head. Mr. Speaker, again, that is one, and I want to assure the farmers there, all those farmers whose land were taken away, that the People's Progressive Party civic government will once again give you back your land. Will once again give you back your land. And we have a history of standing with the workers and farmers of this country. Mr. Speaker, I have another one here. Regan B. Ross. You know that one, Honorable Member Jordan? You're bending your head, man. Listen. Of 41C Field, West Coast Barbies. I'm a rice farmers who has devoted over 50 years of my life to the land that provided for my family. I am a husband and a father to 8 children, and our survivors were deeply tied to the livelihood that our farming brought to us. And then again, it took away callously the land from that comrade. And I have another one here too, Edmund Gravesandi, whose land was taken up. I have the testimonial. The testimonial, the man said on March the 18th, again 2016, a notice was published in the Stabrook News, revealed that my lease have been revoked by the MMA under the Granger administration. I have worked, here, and the man went on. I have worked tirelessly on this land since leaving the army at the age of 25. My father farmed these lands as part of the communal co-op before it collapsed, and I have continued his legacy of hard work. My right to this land is rooted in years of dedication and labor, and I am now in a position where I need clarity and resolution to continue my work without interference. That's the legacy of the AP and UAFC. That's the legacy. And then you come in here and talking about Bora, Bygone, Squash. That's the mentality. That's the mentality of these people, the Bora, Squash mentality. Last year I mentioned it, and again I thought they will change. But they're looking at the small things. Bora, Squash mentality. If a man, Mr. Speaker, I will tell you now, I will be the first as Minister of Agriculture for a competent, a person who knows about agriculture to replace me. Not a man who come in and talk about Bora and Bygone. That's a disgrace to my position. That's a disgrace to my position as Minister of Agriculture.
Honorable Minister, I just want to caution the persons in the gallery. No recording and also no clapping or thumping. That's reserved only for our honorable members. You may proceed, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, we can see what they have done to this country. And then they come in here trying to put the blame on the PPP Civic, talking about Gaisuko, talking about incompetence, talking about PSIP, school need repairs, roads, they are dilapidated roads in the structure. Comrade Speaker, if you look at sugar, as I said, the decline started in the AP and UAFC period, and we have seen the decline drastically in 2019. Sugar declined by 60%, and they went and they closed 4 sugar factories. Mr. Speaker, this here is not our work. This here is not our work. This here is the work of the AP and UAFC, a COI that was commissioned by the President at a cost of $52 million to look into the affairs of the sugar industry when they went into government. And you know what they say? Mr. Speaker, the COI does not recommend the closure of any estate at this time. Their own report. And then they went on, when they see that the report is not in favor of them, what they say? This is not gospel. This is not gospel, they can't take it. So they went and they closed the sugar factory. Mr. Speaker, What was the reason they closed the sugar factory? The reason they closed the sugar estate was because of political reason. They have a problem with sugar workers in this country. They think that sugar workers is supporting the PPP Civic and they have to punish them. But I want them to know, as long the PPP Civic is in government, every single workers in this country will benefit, including the sugar workers. When we extended benefit to the bauxite workers at Linden, we didn't discriminate against them. We are a party, we are a government that look after the welfare of workers and the people of this country. And we will continue to do that. We don't have any explanation to make. That is the reason they are over there. Because they promised every single thing under the sun. Honorable Susan Rodriguez, when she debated last Friday, she said about the promises that they have been making. Honorable Vikram Bharat, you know what caused them to be over there? This manifesto, they put everything under the sun. Somebody said I need $100,000 and said we're going to give you when we get into government. Somebody said I need the income tax threshold to increase, we're going to raise it to $400,000. We need the cash grant to increase, we're going to give you $1 million. And not one single thing that they put in this manifesto was ever achieved. Not one single thing. So, Mr. Speaker, the sugar industry started to collapse under the APNUAFC. They discriminated against the sugar workers in this country. They took out spites against the sugar workers, and they want to punish the sugar workers in this country. That is why, when we were in opposition, and we called for an economic impact study, the fallout that the disclosure will cause, they never did it. And places like Rose Hall in Berbice, Skelden, Enmore, Wales, the entire village economy died. They destroyed the economy of Berbice. That is their legacy. They destroyed the economy of Berbice and parts of Demerara. Those areas were ghost towns. Go back now and see the life that the PPP Civic has brought to those areas, the economic activities that are available in those areas now. That is the legacy of the PPP Civic. Mr. Speaker, and I heard the honorable member talk about this year's production. Over the last few years, at least over the last 2 years, we have seen the impact of climate change on the industry's performance. Although we have seen that, we have worked diligently to ensure that we take care of it. That is why we have seen low production. But I want to assure the member that what we are doing now, what Gaisuko is doing, already 40% of the land, the cultivation land, have been mechanized. They have starved the cooperation of funds. That is why we have to spend $40 billion to rehabilitate the factories, to ensure that we have proper factories that can grind the canes and crush the canes. So, Mr. Speaker, I am very optimistic, like the team from Gaisuko, that we will make the target of 101,000 metric tons this year. And Mr. Speaker, we heard the honorable member talk about rice. Probably you know to eat rice. Nothing here, you're right. So, Mr. Speaker, we have seen how we have turned around the rice industry in this country. For the first time in the history of our country since rice cultivation, we have reached over 700,000 tons. 700,000 tons. And we have peaked at 725,000 tons. The highest production in the history of our country. That is our legacy. That's the PPP Civic legacy. And Mr. Speaker, what we have done, we heard the honorable member was talking just now about how farmers are suffering. What they did to the farmers, we had a very lucrative market in Panama. that was negotiated by the PVB Civic when we were in government in 2011. What they did, they lost the market. They lost the market, and a number of farmers were not paid. $1.7 billion was owed to the farmers of this country. They were in government for 5 years. They left the farmers on their own. You all remember the terminology? Rice is a private business. So they left the farmers on their own. So the farmers were left to fend for themselves. And many farmers had to come out of this rice cultivation. Many factory rice mills had to close. The farmers came and met with us when we were in opposition. And we told them, because we were very confident that we will go back into government, that when we go back into government, we will resolve that matter. And Mr. Speaker, I am happy to say with the intervention, I know I can't call the president here, but we must acknowledge the role His Excellency would have made to get and recoup that money from Panama. Mr. Speaker, a couple months ago, less than 6 months ago, all the farmers were paid their fee money. $1.7 billion was transferred to the farmers. And the Attorney General to work with me, right? And Mr. Speaker, when we came out of government in 2015, we had another lucrative market, the Petro-Caribbean market in Venezuela. And what they did, they destroyed it. They lost it. And almost 20 farmers were owed again. Only last month, Mr. Speaker, only last month, we found the money of $438 million to pay to the farmers. $438 million we paid to the farmers. And Mr. Speaker, over the last 4 years, as we saw rice production peak at 725,000 tons. I am very optimistic again this year that we will increase rice production to over 804,000 metric tons. This year alone, this crop alone, we have already cultivated 235,000 acres. For the first time in the history of this country, for the first time in the history of the MMA scheme, this time around, the MMA scheme, this crop, the MMA scheme is cultivating 101,000 acres of rice. 101,000 acres of rice. And Mr. Speaker, probably, you didn't know about rice. But Mr. Speaker, as I said, that the APNO, I want to quote this one, I have to. They had 11 items in their manifesto how they will improve the rice industry. I want to read it out, Mr. Speaker. Number one, they said they will restructure the GRDB. Nothing. But here the joke of the day, Mr. Speaker. The joke of the day is, they said they would hold free and fair elections supervised by GCOM for the executive of the RP. They want to hold free and fair election. Who talking about free and fair elections? What a joke, Mr. Speaker. Free and fair election for RPA? When APNO AFC hold this country 5-month ransom and squatted in government for 1 year, and they're talking about free and fair election. For the RPA. That's the joke of the year. And they want GCOM to supervise free and fair election. Tell me if these people... tell me if these people know what I'm doing. Free and fair election. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, that's the joke. And I got a number of other measures that they say that they will do. No.
Mr. Minister, this is no joke. You need an extension.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to ask that the honourable member be given 5 minutes to conclude. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Teixeira. Honourable Minister, you may continue.
So, Mr. Speaker, the agriculture sector is moving rapidly. Today, Guyana has taken its rightful place in CARICOM and in the region. Whilst We are now increasing production in the traditional area, rice, other crops. We have now started a new industry in aquaculture. We have increased brackish water shrimp by over 700%, from 10,000 kilogram monthly to 120,000 kilogram. That industry alone earned about approximately $1.8 billion in those economies, the rural economy. We have started the production of Vanami prawns. We are now producing our own prawns, a very lucrative activity. We will be exporting that overseas. Right here in Guyana, there are a number of demands for these prawns. We already have 10 ponds at Anvawak on the west coast of Berbice. 10 ponds. We are building our own hatchery. We have our own hatchery now. We are in the process of building our own feed mill. Those are new activities. Mr. Speaker, we have started the cage culture, the marine cage culture. When we talk about the marine cage culture, many of them talk that those technology cannot come to this part of the world. That those things can happen in Asia and places like Hong Kong and so. We brought it here. We did the pilot test at Machabo, Mainstay, and Kapoi. It was very successful, and we are in the process of installing another 50 cages in different interior locations. Those are the new things, Mr. Speaker. In our manifesto, we said we will diversify the economy. We have started the diversification since 2021. In 2023, we have increased the cultivation of corn and soya. Last year, we increased it to 12,000 acres, almost 700% increase. This year, we will increase that to 25,000 acres, and that will help us 2 times per year to be self-sufficient in producing all our needs right here in Guyana. Those are the vision that we are talking about. We are not coming here with a prepared speech and come read pre-prepared speech. Those are the policies of the government. That is the food security that we are talking about. Mr. Speaker, we heard in the budget speech, over 600 shade houses were built. We will be building another 200 this year. But that is not the case. We brought in young people who are seeing agriculture as a menial job, as a job for old people and the adult people who never went to school. We now brought in people from the University of Guyana, the Guyana School of Agriculture. Over 70% of the participants in this program are young people. All the projects from the Ministry of Agriculture, we have to have 35% young people and women. The Black Belly Sheep Project, which is another success story. We have here, watch, raise your hand, let me see you there. Tell them what the success is. Look, the success, over 175 farmers who have already benefited from the Black Belly Sheep Project. Mr. Speaker, we have had 100% increase in the Black Belly Sheep production, and we are slowly building that brand. To replace the New Zealand lamb and the Australian lamb coming to this part of the world. Those are the vision of the PPP civic government. We have seen livestock increase by 24%. We have started new program. The first time in the history of this country, we started embryo transplant. 300 embryo transplant, sure pregnancy, better breed of animal. We brought in 63 breeding bulls. We give to farmers around the country. We've completed the abattoir in Region 5. Next 2 weeks, we'll commission those abattoirs. Mr. Speaker, we are looking to build the swine abattoir at the Garden of Eden. And the swine story has been a success. So, Mr. Speaker, I know for a fact that I have been going on and time will catch up with me, but I want to first also thank my brother here, my colleague, Dr. Ashley Singh and his team, for bringing a budget that is forward thinking, gives the strategic direction of our country, and one that will reshape the future of Guyana. Mr. Speaker, the budget under the theme of secure, prosperous, and sustainable Guyana is one for all Guyanese, as I said, all the benefit, regardless of class, ethnicity, or political affiliation. Mr. Speaker, We stand at a defining moment in our country's history. Guyana is growing, Guyana is thriving, and Guyana is charting a path towards prosperity that will benefit every citizen, every community, and every region of our country. Mr. Speaker, as I said, in this budget, there is something for every single section of society. And as I said, this budget is more just a plan for the upcoming year. It's a vision for the future. We are establishing the groundwork for a better tomorrow for all Guyanese. And I want to just highlight 2 points that my brother would have made when he read his budget speech. Talk about this budget being addressing all our promises that we went to the electorate with. We have already fulfilled, for the first time in this country, all the promises that we have made to the electorate of this country. And secondly, Mr. Speaker, this budget laid the groundwork for our next term in 2025 and for 2030 and beyond. So this is a comprehensive budget, a budget for all Guyanese, and I urge that we should not have a division in this budget in accepting this budget for the country and to propel Guyana forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. And now for the Honorable Member, Ms. Nima Flew Best.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A pleasant good morning. I want to take this opportunity to welcome the students of Christchurch Secondary and Richard Ishmael Secondary into the assembly this morning. It's nice to see you here. I feel as though I'm at my class, and so it's good for you to be here. With that being said, the Honorable Speaker before me made a presentation and spoke about history. And I would like to spend some time, a few minutes, recapping history. 1964, we should not forget. The Honorable Minister, my family lost 100 acres of land in 1964. Didn't get it back. When we talk about legacy, from 1992 to the time up to 2015, if we to talk about the legacy of the PPPC government, I would ask the children to do research to find out under which government did we lose about 1,400 young people who died in this country, African young men and women that died. I would say to these young people here, it is good for you to read so that you can get the information. Again, we talk about history. We must be reminded, because of the ban from certain products, Guyana produces saltfish as a result of that. Also, Guyana was able to grow its own food. And we see all of these things we can see and learn from our history. Mr. Speaker, today, as we dissect the tapestry of Budget 2025, we must cast aside the June platitudes that often punctuate these debates and confront the malcontent reality facing the Guyanese people. This budget, with all its pretensions of prosperity, is bereft of cogent strategies, offering little more than a roof masquerading as governance. The ruling PPPC government, in its static detachment, has managed to culminate another year of mendacious promises and dystopian expenditures that confound reason. This is not governance, Mr. Speaker. This is kleptocracy. wrapped in a veil of mendacity. I reflect on the words of Aristotle. The worst form of inequality is to try to make unequal things equal. Mr. Speaker, how do we justify a paltry 5,000 increase for our pensioners? A mere $167 per day. Mr. Speaker, barely enough for a pack of mint. Is it not an insult to those who have labored for this nation? The 3,000 increase in public assistance can't even cover one therapeutic session. A meager $100 a day reeks of an aberrant disregard for the vulnerable. The June offering is no salve for the hapless who must navigate an economy rife with inflation and unchecked, deliberate price gouging. The announcement of 130,000, where we have here, I have a breakdown. If you're getting 130,000, if you're renting, you probably pay 45,000. My colleague said to me at work, that's cheap. Transportation might be 15,000. If you have a child coming all the way from East Coast, the child's transportation to Georgetown will cover 8,000. GPL might collect a 10,000. Water bill, 3,000. You might pay internet, because you know we're in the age of technology, a 6,000. Your cooking gas going to be a 5,000. You left with a little 4 to 6,000 to feed your family. The reality of $130,000. Mr. Speaker, adjustment to taxes and income tax thresholds. The question is, who controls the prices in the market? Distribution of cash grants, marvelous, but what system of confusion will be in place? Guyanese people don't know. Mr. Speaker, the promises of free travel on the new Demara Harbor Bridge and 50% electricity reduction hinges upon completion timelines that remain as malleable as the government's integrity. Temporizing with such grandized claims, they pontificate about progress, while our people languishes in uncertainty with no salient assurances in sight. The part-time job allocation of 11 billion raises more questions than answers. Will these workers see an increase? Or is this merely another hoax design while the friends, family, and favorites line their pockets? Meanwhile, the VAT removal on backup generators, another Lord-like maneuver, benefiting only those who can afford such luxuries, while the average citizen remains confounded by perpetual blackouts. Can you imagine the learners lost and the children are here, and the distress of our youths in this technological age with blackout? You got to do your assignment, you got to charge your gadgets, and then in the middle of it, blackout. The children, the young people of this nation can speak to that distress. Mr. Speaker, I turn my attention to Ministry of Culture, Youth, and Sports. Mr. Speaker, the allocation of $3.6 billion for culture appears impressive at first glance. But a closer look reveals that it is bereft of genuine intent. 57.2% of this sum will be put towards infrastructure, leaving our artists, musicians, and cultural practitioners scrambling for scraps. What is the rationale used by the ministry to determine where a project is most needed? We see from last year's budget, a recording studio is set up in Port Moran. It's not completed as yet. But, Mr. Speaker, the question is, what's the rationale? Mr. Speaker, how can we preserve Guyana's cultural tapestry when the government's priorities are glaringly skewed? For example, Mr. Speaker, under the coalition government, I come into this house since 2020, and all these people, the honorable members on that side of the house would talk up about Durban Park and Durban Park. All they're focusing on is the money. But what is the historical significance of Durban Park? Durban Park is located at the area where you have the Independence Arch. Durban Park is located at the area where you have the Square of the Revolution. Durban Park is located in the area where you have the office of the president. Durban Park is located in the area where you have the botanical gardens. Durban Park is located in the area where you have the National Cultural Center. The historical significance. Mr. Speaker, Durban Park was created to celebrate Guyana's 50th independence anniversary. That is what it was created for. Anywhere in this world you go, people celebrate things with significance. What happened to the flagpole? Why is it that we don't see the golden arrowhead flying on that flagpole? What is wrong with having our golden arrowhead flying high there? The children in this house today can speak to the experiences of Durban Park, since many of them will have participated in the event there. Mr. Speaker, Guyana's cultural heritage is a unifying force for development, a representation of our cultural cross-fertilization. Yet, matrimony, a cornerstone of our national identity, has been reduced to a mundane spectacle, stripped of its vibrancy by a government intent on imposing its narrow, consensuous vision of one Guyana. The government's interference in cultural expression is not only imprudent, but an affront for our nation's heritage. Mr. Speaker, we see the PPPC government sees everything as political. Example, tell me how we must survive with 6.5 contestants disqualified from children mash competition last year, February. What were the words of the Calypso? And I say it. Tell me how I must survive with 6.5. Please tell me how I must survive with 6.5. I have a burning issue on my chest. I can't even rest. How cost of living, everything doubling, this thing troubling. Tell me how I must carry on with a seemingly one arm. Tell me what is political about this presentation. Social commentary is a part of our matrimony celebration. Rules should not be there to affect our children. Quite recently, the Heart of Guyana, cultural creativity, heard this piece that was disqualified for political reason. Well, Guyana, this is you, building new things, carving new roads, so brand new, where sugar once flowed and cane fields grow. Now we chase trends, shiny and new. But tell me, Guyana, what's left of you? All the things we used to do. Oh, Guyana, the things that make you uniquely you. Tell me what is political about that life. I am trying to figure it out. These are the things that are thrown out. Mr. Speaker, Guyanese cannot afford to continue to see one set, one type of dance presentation, one set of drummers, one set of musicians, one type of presentation at all the national events we have under this one PPPC Guyana team. We need to see diversity in keeping with our national motto of one people, one nation, one destiny. That's our national motto. And we must say it and let our children understand that is our national motto. Our government will allocate resources to preserve and showcase Guyana's rich cultural heritage for all ethnic groups, as well as music, dance, and our festivals. We will ensure every ethnic group receive the amount of money budgeted for them, and not to impose political decisions to cripple ethnic groups. We will ensure the projects are done, meet the needs of specific needs. An APNU-led government will rectify this by creating the Cultural Industry Secretariat, free from political interference. We will empower our local artists, musicians, filmmakers, and practitioners with non-partisan grants. Not all them cook up and cookery that takes place. Establish cultural centers across this country and again, integrate cultural education into the school curriculum, which will instill pride in our shared history. And most importantly, the protection by legislation for the creative industry will be done. Mr. Speaker, youths. Mr. Speaker, the allocation of 1.2 billion for youth development is equally to June. How can a mayor 75 million for the Youth Council address the pressing needs of our young people? There has been an increase in allocation of the President's Award of 5 million. And I must commend the member who spoke last evening and gave an outline of the program. But I would like to know, as per region, how the young people benefited. Mr. Speaker, why didn't the over 30 youths displaced from Caneview, Sarah Johanna, Hillfoot, or any of the areas where they've been deprived benefited from any of the monies allocated on the youth? We have a lot of young people who are in business, Chevron. We had a lot of young people, Santiana with her 4 daughters, who are involved in business. Marianne was involved in business. They're young people. The issue of them losing everything they own, destroying the business that they had, why is it that they didn't deserve some of the money allocated for youths to help them to develop? Mr. Speaker, I want the honorable member to know, when you speak of merciless, think about Caneview. When you speak of merciless, think about the 1,400 youths that were gunned down and killed in this country. When we speak of merciless, think about all the massacre that took place. When we speak of merciless, think about the unfairness that is meted out to ordinary people in this land. That is what you call merciless. When you speak of merciless, speak about what is happening when the grants are given, the children don't get it, and you have the parents fighting for it, and the children still going to school without the necessary things that they need. That is what we call merciless. Actions like that is what we consider merciless. Mr. Speaker, none of the local youth organizations have benefited from any increases in 2025 budgetary allocation. This budget, Mr. Speaker, speaks a whole story. The oil and gas industry, which should be a beacon of opportunity, remains inaccessible to many of our youth due to the lack of adequate training programs. The government's penchant for temporizing with short-term initiatives sets our youth up for failure. Ministerial powers that dictates a 12-month program must be completed in 4 months. Speak to the uncaring nature of the learning process, but rather the importance of the numbers game. Mr. Speaker, our government will empower youth for national prosperity. Under coalition government, we will launch robust, again long-term youth development programs, provide funding for young entrepreneurship, and establish business hubs at strategic locations like the airport, where only certain people could get stalls, like our stadiums, where there's no space for our local people. Create business hub. You're doing training, create opportunity for the young people to do their business. Create opportunity for them to showcase. I'm always disappointed when I visit the games that come to this country. Thankfully, I can pay for my own tickets and go. When you go to the games, you walk around and you're looking to see, what can we find about Guyana? Nothing. Nothing. Even that simple water from Guyana you don't get to buy. But what happened? Aren't we going to put things in place for that? Mr. Speaker, we'll also invest in leadership development program and mental health support to nurture future leaders and engage in equal opportunities for all, strengthening our national identity. Sports, Mr. Speaker. Whew. A very eventful year. A very eventful year. Mr. Speaker, the secrecy surrounding the tragic death of Joel Adams on July 9th, 2024 at the state-run swimming program and the subsequent cover-up exemplifies the government's lack of accountability. This teen did not even deserve, and the strange thing, you know, Joel had friends, Joel had teachers, Joel had people that loved him, not because he lived in a state-run facility. He had people that loved him. I've encountered Joel as a teacher, and it's very difficult to think that a simple homegoing service, he didn't deserve a live stream that people could be there to really saying it was all a secret. The question surrounding him, why was the FINA certified coach not in charge of the Learn to Swim program? Why was the ambulance and medical professional not at the Learn to Swim program if you're teaching people to swim? Answers, these needs to be answered. Only the ministerial mystical powers have the answers. While the government boasts about medals achieved by our athletes, all of Guyana is super proud of their achievements. And I pause to acknowledge, let's acknowledge our athletes who amidst every challenge, who amidst every trial, who amidst every testing, was able to still bring home medals and fly the golden arrowhead, not the one Guyana, the golden arrowhead of Guyana for this nation. Unlike when you send the children to the Inter-Guyana Games and the uniform got big one Guyana, you don't even see the flag. You check Suriname uniform, they got the flag. Check French, everything. But when you check Guyana, big one Guyana. Where is our coat of arms? Where is our national symbols? This is what we want to see. That is what we want to see. That's what represents Guyana. While the government boasts of medals achieved by our athletes, all of Guyana is super proud of their achievement. However, Mr. Speaker, these athletes had to finance their own training. While the coaches work for free, where was the governmental support for our athletes and coaches? Not even water at the venue or a free transportation to take them for training was provided. Only when they're ready to go to the international stage, then government show up. But that's how sports is operate. It is a process. They need the support so that they will be able to be successful. How many of them paying transportation from the East Coast to Lenora? You're paying 200 from the East Coast to the park. You pay 200 from the boat from Starbrook to Vredenhoop. Then you pay 200 from Vredenhoop to go to Lenora. That's 600. Then you got to find the same to come back. Simple. Where is the support? Where is the support for these athletes? Mr. Speaker, the announcement of stipend for our athletes was nice. And I can say it nice. How, Mr. Speaker? However, Mr. Speaker, the athletes cannot say with certainty which time of the month the stipend will be ready. And the lack of respect towards these sportsmen and women is quite blatant. Participation in international competition. Oh, we participated in international competition. Yes, bravo. Mr. Speaker, the government will boast. Let's talk about the type of accommodation and the meals these athletes would get when they leave Guyana to go and compete. Who went and checked the facilities for the French Guiana Games? Our athletes stayed in a rundown old dorm. That's where our athletes stayed, where the door can't even close. And to represent Guyana. Why our athletes don't be accommodated with the other athletes? We are, as you say, the fastest growing economy. And we cannot adequately invest in ensuring Guyanese athletes are accommodated in fine style with other teams and be comfortable. When you go to sports and championships, you make friends, you form bonds, you get relationships with people, you can communicate and all of that. I see it every day. Why is it that our Guyanese athletes can't enjoy the same? I recall talking to an athlete about the stadium in Grenada, and the young man said to me, he said, Miss, Oh, those seats were so comfortable. Why they can't say the same at the stadium over the river at Lenora? What we doing? Why we taking so long? Money coming, money allocated, and what we taking so long? I see all these agencies that come out to support. Yes, $8 billion, lovely. I'm happy for them. Let them walk to the facilities and see if the athletes are actually comfortable. Let them walk and see how the athletes have to deal with the training. That is what they need to do. Mr. Speaker, budgetary allocation, based on the budgetary allocations for Sports Commission, it will be the same old, same old. There ain't gonna be much of a difference because the finances allocated it's not much different to last year. Mr. Speaker, we are expected to host CPL finals this year. And I saw it in the newspaper, I smiled. I said, good. They boast about it in Parliament, and yes, we've seen it. I smile. But let me remind this House and the PPPC as you're boasting. Hosting of international competition is laughable when juxtaposed with the reality of a leaky roof in July 2024 at the Karate World Cup Championship, as against the blackout-ridden CPL finals in October 2024. Missing the minister, the CC Boxing Building Championship in October. Judge Ramsey, person got called 2-3 times before the minister appeared on stage, doesn't speak well. And the non-functional toilets and dirty stands at the AP Invitational Lenora State, I was so embarrassed because I always going to these sports and things. All these events I visit, I check it out because I love sports. Mr. Speaker, hopefully actions will be taken to ensure no more international embarrassment for Guyana. Hopefully, actions will be taken to ensure no more international embarrassment for Guyana. We have to fix it in order. If you bring in international competitions, ensure you give international standards. I'm embarrassed when I went to the stadium for the cricket. You had the elite games. That was the other thing. You know, it's amazing. A lot of times the people don't go in the regular stands. Basically, the VIP section is VIP. But the people who got to be there to support the spectators, encourage, to cheer, them is important. The washroom nasty, no toilet tissue, not be hosting international competition. We got to fix it. The grounds in question, Mr. Speaker, which is the ministry, but the ministry has the audacity to declare as complete, you know, are glaring testament to the incompetence and misuse of public funds. My two colleagues yesterday mentioned and highlighted two grounds. Despite millions of dollars earmarked for these projects, the reality on the ground tells a different story. In budget 2022, 2023 and 2024, you said you were going to do 251 grounds. They were going to be upgraded. Fine. Then, latter part of the year, the minister came and said that the funds were exhausted and presented a list of 93 grounds. I have it in the hand, sir. Mr. Speaker, interestingly, how are these grounds completed? Fences poorly constructed, no gates in place on animals running over the field. The neglect has rendered the grounds unsafe for use, dangerous holes caused by animal activity, and stuff like that. These fields remain surrounded and invaded with negligence to the east, faggots on the west, inefficiency on the north, and more trouble on the south. This so-called completion is nothing but a sham showcasing government's failure to ensure accountability and proper oversight in the use of taxpayers' dollars. Mr. Speaker, this year $8 billion is allocated for sports 2025. I'm happy to see that. Very happy. All projects will take $2 billion. 1.3 billion will be done to complete the work at Palmyra and 700 million for the multipurpose sports facilities. The new projects, 100 million will go to the Cricket Academy at Good Hope, 2 billion for grounds upgrade, and 1 billion for installation of lights. A total of 6.4 million out of the 6.4 billion out of the 8 billion will be spent on infrastructure. Mr. Speaker, of the 1.6 billion remaining, some more will be spent on infrastructure, like you got the tarmac, and for the schools that will help with the basketball, I hope mine will be fixed. How much of the allocated sums will be spent for coaches? Mr. Speaker, here again, our athletes will be shortchanged, since 80% of the sum will be spent on infrastructure. Last year alone, we spent how much $1 billion on infrastructure. How was these athletes actually benefiting? They ain't got no access to the facility. They ain't got to use it yet. Nothing. Mr. Speaker, back in the early days, we had more athletes in various sport discipline because their facilities were well kept and they were accessible to our youth. Now, we have an upgraded facility that takes 4 long year, 3 long year, 2 long year, and you're going. Cliff Anderson Sports is a perfect example. It's not completed because work's still going on outside. And newly constructed facilities, not certain of the completion of stadiums, be at 2, 6, and 10. Mr. Speaker, the question again, how is this that projects are selected to be done? Temeri Red Ground, or Hyde Park, Temeri Red Ground, a ground that I ran on as a child, provides services for persons at St. Mary's Primary, provide opportunity for people at Susdyke Primary, Susdyke Secondary, Temeri Primary, and all the other schools in that area can use Temeri Red Ground. Was the ground done? No. Why wasn't it done? Only God knows. But if we're working with needs assessment, that would be important because it will serve the schools in the area as well as the children living in the area. We go down the line to Canaan. The minister not in the house what they want tell you now. That go to Canaan, have the meeting with the people talk about the ground being done in Canaan, and he tell the people they're too covetous. They always want something. Now, why is it that you don't see the need to do the ground in Canaan? Canaan will serve not only the people of land of Canaan, it will serve Supply Primary School, it will serve Friendship Secondary School, and all the other schools within that square, Pearl Primary and so forth, where they can use the ground to complete their sports. Why was Canaan not done? Only God in heaven knows. Same old. We need to be real. If you're doing the project, ensure that the people can benefit from the project now.
Honorable Member, I want to ensure you benefit from an extension.
Thank you. Thank you, Comrade Speaker. I do move that the Honourable Member be given 5 minutes to conclude her presentation.
Thank you, Chief Whip. You may continue, Honorable Member, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I can name several grounds. Grounds in Port Village, Myconi, fence, still can't use. Ground at Ogle need cleaning and fixing, still can't use. And the many other grounds I can name along this thing. Mr. Speaker, our government will ensure continuous sports development by investing and completing modern sports facilities and strengthening grassroots programs to identify and nurture the talent from an early age. Mr. Speaker, programs will be provided for our young people, scholarships for the young athletes to compete in regional and international competitions. Partnerships will be created with local and international organizations to enhance sponsorship, coaching, training, and sports science. The APNU government will prioritize the dignity and well-being of our athletes. We will continue to ensure proper facilities, timely stipends, and comprehensive support for our athletes. Mr. Speaker, in keeping with our people-centered development strategy, as a coalition government, our Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture, and I want the workers to hear, as a coalition government, our Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture will be one where workers will be respected. No phone call to a minister will cause disrespect to any worker. No worker will be disrespected since their skills, experience, and qualifications will be used for the good and the development of this nation. The athletes, the craftsmen, our youths will get adequate support without ministerial dictatorship. Our ministry will see the empowerment of our youths, sporting excellence and cultural renaissance. Mr. Speaker, preservation and celebration of Guyana's rich cultural diversity. We will have our industries, Mr. Speaker, the Cultural Industry Secretariat, strengthening our national identity through social cohesion of our youth engagement. Mr. Speaker, this budget is not a tapestry of prosperity, but a dystopian blueprint for continued disenfranchisement. The PPPC government has proven itself to be mendacious administration, adept for favoring its cronies, leaving the ordinary Guyanese bereft of hope. It is time for the Guyanese to reject kleptocracy and once again rally under the banner of one people, one nation, one destiny. It is time for Guyanese to rally as one people, one nation, one destiny. The coalition, with its people development strategy and vision, and a patriotic heart, 'cause you gotta love your country to serve it well, stands ready to lead this nation once again to a future of fairness, equity, and prosperity. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member, Ms. Nima Flubes. And now for the Honorable Minister of Culture, Youth and Sport, the Honorable Charles Ramson Jr.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. It's a very great pleasure to use my voice here to support the largest budget in this country's history, and more importantly, a budget that does not include any taxes, any new taxes. And I have to say, with this new measure of $100,000 for every new child, I was particularly interested in that. I think that particular measure will make Guyanese, let's say, a lot more productive. That's right. That's right. And I listened to the honorable member, and I like Ms. Nima Flubes. But with all of the caterwauling that just happened just a few minutes ago, one would forget that it was they who disbanded the Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sport. And I want to welcome all of the students who are here. All of the lofty ideals and the glowing words about young people, their first act when they came into power was to get rid of the Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sport. And I've been listening very carefully over the last few minutes. And I want to pause on this particular point too that she mentioned. She might be the only person in Guyana and probably in this world that extols the amazing beauty and location or locality of Durban Park. I was driving with someone, came to the country for the first time, and while I was showing him around, he had the opportunity to pass on home stretch. And when he saw Durban Park, you know what he said to me? He asked me, "Oh my gosh, was there a fire here?" That is an eyesore. That is an eyesore and an example of the record that they have for the APNU AFC government. And when I've heard all of what the members of the opposition have said over the last few days, and I hear the purported paragons of virtue and rectitude, I want to ask myself, I can't help but asking myself, are these the people who spent $1.4 billion on Durban Park and 600 million cannot be accounted for? Are these the people who sold a wharf that was valued at 8 billion Guyana dollars, a government wharf? They sold it for $100 million. Only collected $20 million and transferred the property, robbing Guyana of billions of dollars. Are these the same people who sourced a bottom house for drugs for $12.5 million a month in rent, costing Guyana $340 million? Are these the same people? Are these the same people who spent $1 billion on SARA, the State Asset Recovery Agency, and never recovered one asset? Are these the same people who spent $72 million on scales, sourced it to their political advisor from Jamaica, and the scales were never delivered? Are these the same people who transferred $90 million into their personal bank account? Personal bank account in 3 months. Are these the same people who gave themselves contracts in Video Mega? Are these the same people who passed the liberalization for the Telecoms Act in 2016, but never brought it into force until the People's Progressive Party came to power in 2021? Are these the same people who gave themselves 50% salary increase and who have an affinity for bangles, bracelets, bed sheets, barber chairs, pig farms? Are these the same people who fired 7,000 sugar workers and 2,000 CSO workers? Are these the same people who transferred 200 acres of land to the chief elections officer, who is charged for rigging the election in 2020? Are these the same people who gave the returning officer for Region 4 his land the very next day after he applied for it? Are these the same people, these purported paragons of virtue and rectitude, are these people the same people who attempted to rig the 2020 election and that caused Mike Pompeo in the United States of America, in Washington, to say at his press briefing, he said, was He said at the press briefing that he was announcing visa restrictions on individuals responsible for or complicit in undermining democracy in Guyana. The Granger government must respect the results of democratic elections and step aside. Mike Pompeo, the Secretary of State for the United States of America. And the best that I've ever seen, and it happened in this very house in 2020, is when on the penultimate day of the recount and the ultimate day of the recount, right here in this very house, downstairs by the foyer, you had the same people who gathered around in a circle and held hands and prayed that the recount would show that the APNU AFC won the election. And I have the picture here to prove it. These are the same people. These people are delulu. God wouldn't help you to rig the election, and even 7 Ponds, the spirits at 7 Ponds, wouldn't help them either. And I want to deal with this friends, family, and favorites. It's friends and family. The 215,000 children who will be benefiting from their $50,000 per child, they and their parents are our friends and family. The 300,000 who will be receiving the $100,000 cash grant, and again this year, they are our friends and family. The 80,000 pensioners who moved their pension from $20,500 to $41,000, they are our friends and family. The 60,000 persons who gained jobs in the last 4 years, they are our friends and family. The 30,000 Guyanese who are studying free on the Gold Scholarship, they are our friends and family. The 15,000 pathway workers, they are our friends and family. The 12,000 Guyanese who received their vocational training for free on the BIT, they are our friends and family. The 41,000 who received subsidized house lots, highly subsidized house lots, $300,000 they're paying for a house lot that is worth $5 million government invested. They are our friends and family. The hundreds of thousands of people who will be benefiting from the roads, the bridges, the hospitals, the schools, the community grounds, all of them, they are our friends and family. The hundreds of thousands of people who are going to be using the Demerara Harbor Bridge, they are our friends and family. The sugar workers, the farmers, all of the miners, they are our friends and family. The tens of thousands of people who took out mortgages, $164 billion in mortgages in the last 4 years alone, they are our friends and family. The hundreds of thousands of people who now get access, they now get access to cheaper internet because we remove VAT and liberalize the economy. They are our friends and family. The 248 Amerindian villages that received the $10 billion from the world-class LCDS money from our sale of our carbon credit. They are our friends and family. The 8,000 discipline services, members of the discipline services who had their 1 month tax-free salary restored that APNU took away from them. They are our friends and family. Mr. Speaker, I could keep going on. This is the one Guyana family that President Ali and the People's Progressive Party is building. And so when we say we will win the next election, it's based on those numbers. It's simple math. I know they have difficulties with math on that side. Simple math. And so when we hear about the criticism of this budget and this government, and without first listing the stellar achievements, it reminds me of the Yiddish saying, to a worm in horseradish, the world is horseradish. Don't stifle your conscience. Don't stifle your conscience. These policies, programs, and projects have benefited all Guyanese. And when I hear the Honorable Member, Mr. Blackbelly Sheep, on the other side, Honorable Member Ganesh, when I hear him say, bring back Rohi and bring back Frank, it is not by a mistake that he's not saying bring back Ramjatan and bring back Norton and bring back Pagwali. And I want to turn to the opposition, because I've been carefully assessing this opposition over the last 4 years. And I can safely say that if there are 3 things that Guyanese can agree on, and the first is our 83,000 square miles territory, the second is our love for cricket, and the third is that this opposition is a complete waste of time. The fact is that this opposition could have done so much more. They wasted 4 years. Many of them don't even attend Parliament regularly. They don't come on time. They don't make presentations. And when they attend, they leave early. They don't go through their work and ask questions.
Mr. Speaker.
They don't even vote.
Honorable Minister, I have the Honorable Member, Mr. Mahipal, on his feet.
Sir, there is a hybrid system in Parliament, the virtual and physical, and majority of our members, when they are
Honorable
in the
Member,
House,
Mr. Mahipal, a good try, but if you had presented me a record of the attendance and used that analysis to say that what he is saying doesn't reflect the reality. Go ahead, Honorable Minister.
Many of them don't attend Parliament. Many of them don't come on time. Many of them, when they come, they have lunch and they leave early. They don't do their presentations. They don't prepare and ask questions. These are facts. So when you want to come and present budgets here, anybody can come and read a speech. But it is time. Time is the true answer of the truth. Time is where the facts lie. So, and now they will start to go out into communities. They don't do even community work. They're in opposition, they don't even do community work. They'll go and do community work now. But I want them to know, what rain can't fall, dew can't fall. They wanted us, this opposition wanted to prevent us from spending oil money. And their brilliant and genius idea was to steal this maize. Brilliant and genius idea was to steal this maize.
Honorable Minister, I will correct you. Attempt to
steal this maize. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And one of the members was inside this house and he was getting quarterback and choreography ideas from a member who was outside. A man who hadn't taken his seat yet in Parliament. How are you? And then even after we had that attempt to steal the maize, and we held a hearing and we suspended them, you know what they did? They went to go to court to overturn their suspension. That is what they did, and they lost. How are these people going to tell people don't commit crime? How are they going to tell people don't commit crime? So, and the one definition of an abdication of their responsibility was when we had the local content bill presented in this house by the People's Progressive Party, which we committed to in opposition as part of our manifesto promise. You know what they did? You know what they did when it was presented? They argued against it. They voted against this. This is a bill that would give and now act that would have given and now gives Guyanese people more employment in the oil industry, more opportunities for work, more opportunities to get procurement of goods and services. They voted against it. And just like when they were in government, they cannot be united now in opposition. Their big focus now is whether there will be a coalition or not. Who will be the presidential candidate? Their focus is not on people, it is on themselves. And no one was shocked when it was revealed on Friday that 22 out of the 32 members of the opposition hustled to get house lots for themselves. Ask them how many they got for ordinary people. And by their own admission, they said that their coalition is on life support. Well, let me just tell you, post-mortem don't bring back dead. Post-mortem don't bring back dead. And I want to take a few minutes to speak about the oil economy. So in December, we started producing, in 2019, we started to produce oil. And yes, we have more oil reserves than any other country in the world, but what matters is production. We are currently producing 650,000 barrels a day. But in order to be in the big leagues, we're not even a top 25 producer. America currently produces 22 million barrels of oil. Russia produces 10 million barrels of oil per day. Saudi Arabia, 11 million barrels a day. We are at 650,000 barrels a day. We have to rapidly get up our production, otherwise we are not in the big leagues. So what I want us to focus on too is our debt. When we hear members of the other side speak about our debt, and we've spoken ad nauseum about the ratios, our ratio being the lowest in this hemisphere. The first question that you have to ask, really, because I don't want to get into too much equations and analysis of that. This is how you should answer it. They wouldn't understand. Minister Frank is right. They wouldn't understand. The first question that you have to ask is, are the schools, the roads, the bridges, the ports, the water wells, the community grounds, the gas to power project, are they needed? The answer is yes. The second question is, would it have been built had it not been for government expenditure? The answer is no, because otherwise the market would have done it already. The third question is, if we have to make the decision to build it at some point, and we had the money to do it, or we had access to do it, if the answer is yes, why are we waiting to do it? We must do it now. And if there's any time to take on debt, now is the time. Because even when oil prices decline, and they will decline at some point in the future, the fact is you have more projects coming on stream by 2030, at least 4 more. And it means that the increased level of production will offset the risk in the decline in oil prices. And I want you to understand that, and this is what the parochial thinkers on the other side don't understand, is that we are competing with other countries. Countries like the United States, on their airport alone, they're making a renovation investment of 18 billion US. And that's why it's important for us to double down now and make our infrastructure more improved and modernized so that we can build for the future. Other countries are getting it, but they are not. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to speak more about the Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sport. And I'd like to take the opportunity to welcome my brother, Suresh Singh. the Director of Youth. Another hard-working young person that the People's Progressive Party has promoted. And I also want to say that I explained how this APNU AFC abandoned and betrayed young people by disbanding the Ministry of Culture Youth when they came in. But I also want to show the world, the Guyana and Guyanese, especially young Guyanese, how the APNU AFC, they haven't changed. They haven't changed. They had three opportunities to replace an MP in the last 4 years. They had Joe Harmon, who vacated. You had Nicolette Henry, who vacated. And you also had recently Raphael Trotman, who vacated. In all three instances, they replaced those persons with old persons. Persons who are in their 60s and 70s. Not a single young person was chosen in the three. The first time that we had an opportunity to replace another competent MP, Siraj, we chose a young person. And I also want to say that it is no different at what happened in their internal elections. Both APNU and AFC, they had opportunities to elect young leaders too. And both of them didn't. They elected old leaders. The Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sport, Mr. Speaker, has been restored to its rightful space at the level of the cabinet, and it has been transformed in the last 4 years. And I want to start off particularly with culture this time, because in one of the examination of the estimates that we had here in 2023, I had the privilege of being interrogated by some of the honorable members. And I want to share to this honorable house, as I announced then, that the Institute of Creative Arts, which was started and conceptualized under Minister Frank, under the People's Progressive Party, I announced then that it would be registered with the National Accreditation Council. And I want to read what the honorable member, Ms. Natasha Singh Lewis, when I made the commitment that it would be registered with the National Accreditation Council. Robeson, give me a minute. Here is what Ms. Natasha Singh Lewis said in the Parliament, coming from the Hansard. She said, the Institute of Creative Arts has to first be registered with the National Accreditation Council. That is a pre-qualification for accreditation. The National Accreditation Council does not do institutional accreditations. It does program accreditations at this moment. The ICA could not have been registered all this time because there is no legislation in place that established the ICA. So, Ms. Natasha Singh Lewis advised, as she sat in the Green office in the same building at the Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sport, which I have to say during that time, there was an unhealthy obsession with the colors green and yellow. Everything was being painted green and yellow. Some people even painted their house green and yellow. We were able to get, and I told this house that, and advised that we didn't need a legislation to get the Institute registered. I'm happy to bring to this house that we are officially registered with the National Accreditation Council, the Institute of Creative Arts. The APNU came in, had a brilliant concept, which is a tertiary level creative arts academy for persons who are involved in dance and drama and creative writing and music, etc. And in those 5 years, they did nothing. They did nothing to advance the registration of the Institute. So I'm extremely pleased, Mr. Speaker, to announce to this Parliament that we achieved what the Honourable Member said that we could not do. And I'm also would like to say that I've learned over time that many persons who say that they can't and many persons who say that they can are oftentimes both correct. Ms. Natasha Singh Lewis, who was advising the department back then, Honourable Member, this is a situation of where they did not know, and they did not know that they did not know. The ministry participated in and held over 60 events last year, and there are only 52 weeks in a year. 26 were held in other countries. We held the Literary Arts Festival, the Dancehall Monarch, which was new, and it's now the most popular entry in now the Mashramani entries for song competitions. We held our independence in Region 10. We had, after losing one of our cultural icons, Dave Martin, we held a fitting tribute for him last year. We invested in training for songwriters and stagecraft performance and music production, the business of music, audio engineering, music trending and as a result, I want to say that now our artists, our performers, our musicians, their music is now trending in the Caribbean. And our performers are making good money both in Guyana now and going overseas. They're being booked overseas and making money. And after APNU had killed the Guyana Prize for Literature, something that was so important for the literary arts, we introduced a Right to Stage program, WRIT, Right to Stage Theatre Arts Support Program. And this has been an immense success where we have already staged 6 theatre plays. We held and conducted workshops with Hollywood actors last year, Silvio Simac and Jacob Scipio. And this year we will be focusing on our film treaty with the UK. We completed the Cultural and Creative Industries online platform, which will be launched this year. Castellani House held 15 art exhibitions. Our youth culture camps, which was introduced by us. We trained 400 young people. 400 young people last night, and it's been over 1,000 since 2022 when it was introduced. And we completed the review and the draft of the legislation for the National Trust, which will be tabled this year. First time it was ever done. We did 37 meetings of hard work to get that accomplished. What did they do? Nothing. I want to turn to sport, Honourable Speaker. The Honourable Speaker,
Before you turn to sport, I'll have to give you an extension.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to ask that the honourable member be given 5 minutes to continue.
Thank you, Honourable Minister Teixeira. Honourable Minister Ramson, you may continue.
thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. In 2023, our athletes secured 167 medals in international and regional levels. And that then, in 2023, that then was the highest that we have ever accomplished in our country's history. I am happy to announce in 2024, Guyana secured 534 medals in international and regional championships. 300%. In 2023, Guyana we participated in 51 international and regional tournaments, spending millions of dollars, 51 international and regional tournaments. In 2024, that then was the highest, in 2023. In 2024, it was 102. 102, spending millions and millions of dollars every single time our athletes leave these shores. In 2023, Guyana held 15 international sporting events. 15. In 2024, it was 29, an increase of 93%, bringing millions and millions of US dollars into our economy. We introduced and held, we held, some of them included, the CPL, the Cricket World Cup. The Cricket World Cup successfully held and hosted right here in Guyana. We introduced for the first time the Global Super League that many of our neighbors are excited about but are also looking at us with an envious eye. We also had CONCACAF qualifiers, the Caribbean Cycling Championships, which hasn't been held since 2001. Since 2001, Minister Gale would have been the minister during that time. The Caribbean bodybuilding, it was held for the first time since 2004, when Minister Frank was minister then. Casa, squash, motor racing. Countries that refused or were unable to host, we worked with those international organizations and local sports associations who have all supported this budget. We've worked with them to make these tournaments a success and make it beneficial to the country. And it shows the strong relationship and the benefit that we have with the Sports Commission and also the sports associations. And I also want to say it also shows the benefit of the National Sports Academy, which we introduced for the first time in 2022. In 2022. And last year we had international coaches and athletes come to participate in our elite training program. Our athletes have now signed with major shoe deal companies for contracts for their promotion and are now being scouted. Some have already secured scholarships in the United States and other places in the world because of their athletic performance. And some of them are being scouted right now as we speak, touring many of the universities so that they can make their decision about which university to attend. And I also want to announce this year that we will be having a gold medal Olympic and world champion who will be doing one of our elite training programs with our athletes in this country. In the last 4 years, the governance of sports associations saw major changes in their leadership. And this is something that I'm extremely proud about, because this is for years we've been asking for the governance to improve, and the change of leadership has caused that. Mr. Speaker, I want to say this about our community grounds, because our members are speaking about community grounds. That when the APNU AFC came to government, they cut expenditure on community grounds. cut community expenditure on community grounds by 66%. In the 2011 to 2015 period, we used to spend $300 million a year on community grounds. And they want to come and profess that they love community grounds. It is for that reason that you've had the decrepitude in community grounds that we've had to make this investment now. We've completed and invested in the last 4 years 320 community grounds. And if you include the hinterland, the 248 villages, it is 550, over 550 community grounds that we've invested in. And this is something that I put my personal attention in because I know how important it is to young people. Because if they don't have a safe space to play in and to pursue their talents, we will lose them forever. They get involved in drugs and gangs and stealing, and then they end up either in jail or 6 feet below. And that's one of the reasons that I've put my personal attention in. Mr. Speaker, I've walked those grounds. I've done over 1,000 consultations with communities, more than the whole of the APNU AFC combined when they are in government and in opposition. I've done over 1,000. And I've walked through swamps and vegetations big like forests and ended up with bites and went through snake-infested fields. And I did all of that just so that I can highlight the importance. And now we are investing over $2 billion in community grounds and lighting those. And I've seen how those communities have changed. Mr. Speaker, it has been... He was the snake. Mr. Speaker, it has been a marked, distinct transformation that has happened in the Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sport. And I would like to take the opportunity to thank His Excellency President Ali and the People's Progressive Party government, the Vice President Jagdeo, all of my members of the cabinet, and also the members of the Ministry of Finance. And finally, I leave the word of saying thank you for all of the support that I have personally had, we have had from the members of the Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sport. The People's Progressive Party will win the next election. We will have a larger majority here in Parliament, and the APNU AFC will be resigned to opposition for the next 30 years, and you can mark my word on that. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister of Culture, Youth and Sport. Honorable members, this is a good time to take the suspension. Please listen out for this bell to mark that the Speaker is waiting for a quorum.
Struggle is we struggle, and we don't look for trouble, just ask around. But when outside faces from foreign places talk about taking over, we ain't backing down. We ain't giving up no mountains, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one karage, not a blade of grass. This land is all I know. We gonna make it somehow. We will bend like a bow and never break. Our fathers came here, and they lived and died here, and we ain't moving nowhere. Make no mistake, 'cause we ain't giving up no mountain, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one rice, not a blade of grass. We love the open country of the Rupununi and the Essequibo, take time on it. Though we may criticize it, this is our own, we love it, and we need to keep it. We have that right. So we ain't giving up no mountain. We ain't giving up no tree. We ain't giving up no river. That belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one grass, not a blade of grass. So we ain't giving up no mountains. We ain't giving up no tree. We ain't giving up no river. That belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one chorus, not a blade of grass. We are a peaceful people. Struggle is with struggle, and we don't look for trouble. Just ask around. But when outside faces from foreign places talk about taking over, we ain't backing down. We ain't giving up no mountains. We ain't giving up no tree. We ain't giving up no river. That belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one chorus, not a blade of grass. This land is all I know. We gonna make it somehow. We will bend like a bow and never break. Our fathers came here and they lived and died here, and we ain't moving nowhere. Make no mistake, cause we ain't giving up no mountain. We ain't giving up no tree. We ain't giving up no river. That belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one chorus, not a blade of grass. We love the open country of the Rupununi and the Essequibo, take time on it. Though we may criticize it, this is our own, we love it, and we need to keep it. We have that right. So we ain't giving up no mountain. We ain't giving up no tree. We ain't giving up no river. That belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one chorus, not a blade of grass. So we ain't giving up no mountains. We ain't giving up no tree. We ain't giving up no river. That belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one chorus, not a blade of grass. We are a peaceful people. Struggle is with struggle, and we don't look for trouble. Just ask around. But when outside faces from foreign places talk about taking over, we ain't backing down. We ain't giving up no mountains, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one karage, not a blade of grass. This land is all I know. We gonna make it somehow. We will bend like a bow and never break. Our fathers came here and they lived and died here, and we ain't moving nowhere. Make no mistake, 'cause we ain't giving up no mountain, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one karage, not a blade of grass. We love the open country of the Rupununi and the Essequibo, bedtime on night. Though we may criticize it, this is our home, we love it, and we need to keep it. We have that right. So we ain't giving up no mountain, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one karage, not a blade of grass. So we ain't giving up no mountains, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one karage, not a blade of grass. We are a peaceful people, struggle is we struggle, and we don't look for trouble, just ask around. But when outside faces from foreign places talk about taking over, we ain't backing down. We ain't giving up no mountains, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one karage, not a blade of grass. This land is all I know. We gonna make it somehow. We will bend like a bow and never break. Our fathers came here and they lived and died here, and we ain't moving nowhere. Make no mistake, 'cause we ain't giving up no mountain, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one karage, not a blade of grass. We love the open country of the Rupununi and the Essequibo, bedtime on night. Though we may criticize it, this is our home, we love it, and we need to keep it. We have that right. So we ain't giving up no mountain, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one karage, not a blade of grass. So we ain't giving up no mountain.